Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 1-0 podcast. My name is Avery Hill.
I'm Lyle Alenstein.
And I'm Lexie Linderman.
We're a few days away from kickoff at Penn State. Penn State will take on Nevada at 3:30 at Beaver Stadium. We'll touch on a little bit of that. We'll touch on a little bit of depth chart, and we'll talk about something that happened right before we enter studio. Guys, we're going to start with Nevada. Penn State's favored to beat Nevada by 44.5 points. So what exactly do you guys want to talk about? What are you most interested in looking forward to this game?
I think, honestly, it's going to be, a blowout. Football's, going to be played, but Penn State's going to easily win this one. So I think the most interesting part to me, at least, is we get our first look at the defense under Jim Knowles. I think it'll be interesting to see what linebackers, play how much, where they play. Is Dom DeLuca really going to be playing the Mike the same as Maury Campbell? Things like that. So I'm interested to see that. I'm also interested to see Antoine Belgrave-Shorter's first start for Penn State. I think it was a surprise to everyone when he was named that second safety starter besides Akee Wheatley. A lot of people had DeJon Lane in that spot, me included, or King Mack. So I'm interested to see how he handles that moment, which obviously Nevada's a pretty easy opponent to, get your first start against. So, and then also just once, obviously the starters are pulled, I'm interested to see, some of the young guys, how they look, like maybe how Anthony Speca's looking at linebacker, because he was supposed to see a lot of time before Maury Campbell came in. Just some of the freshmen, obviously Chaz Coleman. James Franklin said he's going to play upwards of 30 snaps on Saturday. At least, well, that's what he said. I want to say he didn't really want to make a real claim because he didn't want his mom to see that and, get upset if he didn't. But so Chaz Coleman, Darius Dixon, just a lot of the freshmen that we've heard a lot of buzz about, even Kobe Howard, excited to see how those guys look, if the hype they've been getting this offseason is really warranted. But other than that, I just think also the three transfer wide receivers, a lot of people are going to be looking at them, basing a lot of opinions based off this first game, which, isn't always necessary. People just need to, take some time to really let the season get in before making any conclusions about that. But I just know people are going to be running rampant about that. But so, yeah, that's all the stuff I'm interested to see.
Yeah, I do agree. Football will be played. As far as Nevada, I think we're going to have this conversation over the first 3 weeks of the season. The game is not going to be close. We're going to be like, oh, what are you looking forward to? Well, Penn State's going to win by a lot, so you don't really have a lot to judge there. Nevada head coach Jeff Choate was very complimentary at his press conference of James Franklin. He said it's really cool that he's going to be able to coach in the same stadium that Joe Paterno did. But this is a Wolfpack team that's not very good at football. A lot of transfers coming in. You got Brock Purdy's younger brother, Chuba, at quarterback, who's 0-6 in games he started. He started at 2 at Nevada last year before having a season-ending injury midway through. 0-2 at Florida State. 0-2 at Nebraska. They got Herschel Turner, transfer running back, who's put up over 1,000 yards at Utah State. He's pretty talented. But this is a team that's got 2 returning offensive line starters, 3 from the portal that are coming in from the FCS. They lost Isaiah World, who we're going to see later this year at Oregon, who's mocked by some to be a first-round pick. But this game isn't going to be particularly close. You guys can go see our score predictions that we put up, psucollegian.com. But I'm just basically how long the starters are going to be in the game. I think they got to shake off the rust enough to get some reps in. I don't think come second half we see a lot of the veteran starters, guys like Antoine Belgrave-Shorter, some of the younger guys, Chaz Coleman. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them stay later in the game. But I think we're going to see Ethan Grunkmeyer and Jackson Smolik. Ethan Grunkmeyer yesterday was named backup quarterback. I think they're both going to get some time. You're going to see all 3 running backs that are in the mix for that RB3 spot between Cam Wallace, Quentin Martin, Corey Smith. And then defensively, I look at those young defensive ends. We didn't see Zariah Fisher at practice yesterday. We're assuming Chaz Coleman's going to get the start. Yvonne Kamaju, who's on that borderline green light right now, is in the middle. They still got to see some things. Jalen Harvey, Malachi Williams, those were guys that were rotating in with Denai Sutton at practice. So, there's a lot of things you could look at that are going to be excited. You can point to some things that aren't even related to the game. We got the temporary construction coming in. Our first look in that new press box. We got all 4 seats. We're all going to be in there. I don't know. I'm excited to get to Beaver Stadium, but football is, it's going to be a blowout for the trend we're going to see the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, as y'all said, football is going to be played. I don't know how quality that football will be. Again, it is the first week for one. Second, Nevada is we went 3-10 or something like that last season. 0-7 in the Mountain West, which is probably the more important thing to me, because if you can't win a single conference game,
it's Mountain West.
What's going on exactly? So what's going on? You look at their roster again, a lot of transfers. You have Chuba Purdy, of course. The more interesting thing for me looking at Nevada is Nate Burleson II and Nehemiah Burleson, sons of obviously former Wolfpack. I don't know. Did they call them? What would you call a Wolfpack? Just a wolf? Like a Wolfpack player? A wolf? Like
I don't remember.
I guess. I don't know. I guess a member of the pack, Nate Burleson, of course, as everyone knows in the NFL, whatever, CBS Sunday morning or CBS mornings. That's the more interesting storyline when you look at Nevada. But overall in the game, I think you'll get a chance to see a lot of the guys that James Franklin and players and coaches have been talking about all summer. You talk about Ivan Kamaju. You should definitely see a little bit of him. As Lexie talked about, Chaz Coleman's supposed to play around 30 reps for his mom. Make sure you hold Coach James Franklin accountable to that. I know you're going to want to see your son play, so if he doesn't hit that 30 mark, someone will be posting the snap counts if you're not counting, so you can kind of make sure you kind of get on him for that, because I know you want to see the Tasmanian Devil touch the field. But it'll be very interesting to see how he is able to adjust to the collegiate level. Obviously, arriving in the summer is something that's never easy, even though we've had back-to-back years where guys arrive in the summer and they've been able to see some playing time at some point, obviously with Max Granville last year, who was out with the season-ending injuries, part of the reason why Chaz Coleman is going to see some playing time this year. I mean, he's gotten the green light already, which is incredible for him to do, again, coming in the summer. I think if you look at the rest of the roster, again, Ethan Grunkemeyer, Jackson Smolik, we'll be seeing both of them. The competition isn't over. James Franklin said that. He said that Grunk is a starter for week 1. We'll see how that progresses, and obviously they can easily just say, okay, for these next 3 games, we're going to alternate, and then by the time we get to Oregon, you kind of figure out a true backup. I think that's really the most interesting storyline going into this week. There wasn't really much questions from the media to James Franklin about Nevada. Like, it literally was, okay, who's playing, who's the backup defensive tackles, like who's the backup quarterback, who have you decided a number 3 running back, which he said they haven't yet. The wide receiver rotation, like there's not really much to look forward into in the game, and as Lyle said, that's something that we'll kind of see throughout the year. I think the biggest thing for Penn State, though, is like just getting acquainted to the season. You're playing in a new scheme with Jim Knowles. You're in the second year under Andy Kotelnicki, bringing in some big-time transfers. Cupcake games are a chance for you to really get in sync. It's a chance for you to obviously put up some numbers, but that's where you kind of understand, okay, what works, what doesn't, because obviously if it's not working against Nevada, like, let's be honest, who is it going to work against? What do you guys kind of think is something? You had something? You got?
Yeah, I just think, I wouldn't be surprised if they start slow. I still think it's going to be a blowout, but you look at West Virginia last year, they didn't score in the first quarter, and then they put up 20 in the second. Bowling Green, they were struggling in that first half, and then they pulled away at the end. UCLA, the same thing. But, you also had all 3 coordinators the first year, still some kinks you had iron out. Like, the continuity for this year compared to last year is way different. Year 2, Lustig and Kotelnicki. I think Jim Knowles is going to be fine. I think you look at the best defensive coordinator, and I think it's an adjustment coming from Tom Allen. But, I'm expecting multiple turnovers. If they start slow offensively, so what? I think this game, we all have them winning by, I think, the closest is 40 points, just under the spread. So, I mean, it's week 1. They're going to win. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of how they do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be just kind of the biggest thing. I mean, you talk about the defense getting going. Penn State had a lot of slow starts last season. We saw that. I mean, you look at Bowling Green is obviously your biggest example, but you could argue Kent State was a slow start. I don't know if they went scoreless in the first quarter, but it wasn't really.
Yeah,
it was close in the first quarter. Both threw the pick. See how much I'm blanking on this game. It's 56-zip. Yes. I was ready to get in a
both their starting quarterbacks got injured in the first.
Yeah, exactly. We went through a whole depth of quarterbacks. That was one of those games. But even in that case, I mean, you had the interception. They didn't start out strong, and Kent State ended up winless on the season. So it's not like Kent State was anywhere close to competitive. Kenny Burns was obviously fired after the season. It wasn't good. So obviously, Penn State's going to want to start out strong. I do think it happens this season. I think that energy that comes off of, okay, losing to Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl, it's sticking with this team. I think that if you're Penn State, you have no choice but to send a statement. You've heard the hype all season, the preseason accolades. As I said on X, at official Ave. I don't remember how much E's I have and how much underscores I have, so I'm going to just leave it like that. You'll find it. Just type my name in. But as I said on X, I just think that if Penn State had a trophy case of all their preseason accolades, it would weigh more than me after 5 Meatball Mondays.
For those of you who don't know, McClanahan's,
Oh
please sponsor us. Meatball Monday. I've been going since freshman year. I put Avery on. Had his first Meatball Monday this week. It was great reviews. So if you're seeing this, tap in.
Accidentally put onions on it. I will let you know that I am sorry. I apologize. Please do not revoke my Meatball Monday card. I apologize. But anyways, as I was saying, the hype is incredible for Penn State right now. Penn State has some very high expectations, and it'll be very important for them to come out strong, to start out fast, because if you don't, obviously it's not going to be like, oh, the season's over. But you want to set that tone. You want to keep that momentum going. I mean, you talk about like looking at Nick Dawkins talking about daily deposits of intentional effort, how Penn State has been able to really, put that work in every single day. It's helping him be confident. It's helping the team be confident. As you talked to the players yesterday, on the defense, talking about how, they're good on the defense. Obviously, Jim Knowles has a complicated scheme, but it is a really good scheme. It won Ohio State a national championship in January. So them getting acclimated to that will be the biggest thing. But again, like, Penn State is obviously going to win the game. So, like, if you take that out of the equation, what do you guys think would be, like, a win for Penn State? Like, you're going to win the game. What would be kind of a win, if that makes sense?
I think what would be a win is if you get the transfer wide receivers substantial reps with Drew Aller in the game, because Drew Aller kind of talked about on Wednesday that, with a week and a half left in fall camp, they really started trying to get into game mode, I think is what he said, get reps with those wide receivers as much as possible. I mean, it's hard going from, you have 3-4 wide receivers you're familiar with, 2 of them transfer, Liam Clifford's the only one still here, and then you bring in 3 completely new guys, all 3 of which are projected to be starters, 2 of which we know are going to be starters. Devontae Ross is going to split with Liam Clifford to start the season as he comes back from what James Franklin called some bumps and bruises. But it's hard. You can't build chemistry overnight with your wide receivers, and so I think getting that game action is just going to be super important for them going forward. I think the last thing Penn State wants is to have any more problems at wide receiver this season. It cannot be a problem whatsoever. Because you don't really have, Tyler Warren to fall back on. The only thing you have to fall back on is the running game. And if you're not two-dimensional, like, it's going to be hard, to win against Oregon's and Ohio State's. Because, obviously Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen are incredibly talented, but there's only so much they can do if the passing game is not there. So I think a win for Penn State would be really getting those transfer wide receivers a lot of targets. We obviously know what Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton are. They have nothing to prove anymore. I don't really think they need to get reps against this Nevada team. Obviously they need to knock off a little bit of rust, and I know they had reduced reps in the spring just because of how long the season was, but I just think a win for Penn State, they get the wide receivers the ball, the wide receivers do well, the fans are happy, everything like that. I think that would be really good for Penn State.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the wide receivers. I think the Devontae Ross, more especially, is the most important one because he's banged up, and you want to get him on the field, but enough just to get him fully acclimated, because they can win football games with Liam Clifford and Kobe Howard and like up to Oregon. Like, I think it'll be okay. Like, it's much with Devontae Ross especially, because you just got to get him up to game speed come Oregon. Obviously, you want everyone to leave healthy, but since he's been banged up, I think that he's important to keep an eye on. You make sure you get some targets. But other than that, I think defensive ends. Once the game gets out of reach, you take deny, but you got to let all the young guys loose. Because considering that position is. With the depth, it's like you don't want to call them deep because they've got a lot of talented young guys, but we just haven't seen them play football, right? So you let them go the whole way. Jalen Harvey, Yvonne Kamaju, Shaz Coleman, like, even when the game gets out of reach, let them in, let them burn. Like, go get after the quarterback, make some decisions. Maybe you want to greenlight Yvonne Kamaju next week if you see something. Maybe you want to hold him back. Mason Robinson was a guy who wasn't at practice yesterday, but James Franklin mentioned him on Monday as in the long assortment of players. So just guys you want to keep an eye on there. And then I think, for me, Andy Kolnicki and Jim Knowles not emptying out the playbook one bit whatsoever. Ground and pound, simple defenses. Like, don't show any of those tricks you got up your sleeve, because these defenses and offenses that you're going against are not going to be the caliber that you're seeing later in the season.
Yeah, I think, again, if you talk about the offense and defense, they can go right to coach suggestions and just push X every single play.
HB dive.
Yeah, exactly. HB dive, tight end attack. If you want to talk about mid blitz, they just added load mug and the 3-3 odd formation. You can run buck slant 3, things like that. All these different plays. But really, I think a win for Penn State is if you see the depth in the front 7 apparent. I think, again, we talk about front seven, so not just the defensive ends, not just defensive tackles, but the linebackers as well. If you look at the front four, you have guys at starters that we all know will show up. We all know they will be as dominant as they were last year or as they're projected to be. That's kind of just you know that when you're looking at a James Franklin defense, especially nowadays with Deion Barnes and again Jim Knowles this year, Tom Allen last year, Manny Diaz before that. You know that front four is going to show up. The linebackers, it's a little different this year. Like you talked to Tony Rojas yesterday, and he's like, the linebackers, we run the show. It's a 4-2-5. A 4-2-5 puts a lot of stress on the linebackers for obvious reasons. There's only two linebackers. You have your Mike and you have your weak side linebacker, and they're going to have a big responsibility, especially in the run game, kind of being able to, prevent anything from getting past the second level, because if it does, you're playing against 5 defensive backs. There's no Jalen Reed out there to go and, make the play when he makes the tackle, of course. Like, that's I'm just saying. So, and he's performing well. We'll say that. He's performing well right now. We'll make that clear. But either way, you won't have that help in that, back 5. So it's going to be very important for the linebackers to show up. Obviously, as starters, you have probably Amari Campbell, and then obviously you can flip between Dom DeLuca and Tony Rojas to kind of depend on what you're looking for. Then behind that, it's just like, okay, Keon Wiley, who we missed all of last year, but he really showed an ability to get in the backfield, make plays, had 3.5 sacks his last season. What's that, 2023? I'm losing math. It's senior year, guys, so I don't really know math or anything like that.
We've taken our math classes.
Yeah, I finished that second sophomore year, so yeah, we're done with that. I don't know about Lexie, but we're done with that. So either way, about 3.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. He's obviously going to be able to show an ability to really get downfield and make plays in the run game. You look at Anthony Specco, of course, he drew a lot of buzz last year and was a potential candidate to take the Mike spot, but obviously not good enough with James Franklin making it very clear that they need a guy. Obviously, they want a guy to replace Kobe King. You lose Tamir Robinson, obviously, in April or whatever that was. So it'll be very important to see how that depth looks. I think that'll be very important when you have only 2 or 3 guys that are like your quote unquote starters, like in sub packages you'll have 4-3. Those will be your 3 guys. They're going to get tired at some point. It's going to be a lot coming downhill, trying to make plays, banging players like play after play. That's obviously going to mean they need a lot of rotation. So I think it'll be very important for them to be able to, I wouldn't say answer that question because playing Nevada, but I do think it'll be important for them to at least show up and show that there is potential for that linebacker room to take a really big role because, again, as Tony Rojas said, they have to run the show. He said last year was the safeties, as I said, with Jalen Reed and, obviously KJ Winston before he got hurt and Zeki Wheatley. But this year it is the linebacker, so they might be the biggest question on the team, but they must show up, and that has to start with Week 1 Saturday against Nevada. I think next we can kind of go into, again, the biggest thing that happened right before we walked into the studio. Micah Parsons was traded, former Penn State linebacker, for those who do not know, was traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. Real quickly, I just wanted to kind of get you guys' reactions. What did you think? What was the moment when you saw that news?
Well, my friend, when he put out the statement, and he started, obviously, Pennsylvania guy from Harrisburg, and he was talking about how he was one of the only kids in his neighborhood who rooted for the Cowboys while everyone was an Eagles fan. And I'm sorry, Micah, I just don't believe that for a second. I don't know how that. And then he wrote about oh yeah, came to Penn State. He was so great to continue wearing the blue and white. That's a really sweet thing for you to say, but I don't really believe. But Micah Parsons, that was the whole offseason. That Cowboys front office is dumb. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm glad he's not in the division anymore. Abdul Carter is now the defensive end at Penn State, will be representing in the NFC East. But, Micah Parsons on a Cowboys team is, you're going to pay George Pickens all that money, but not Micah Parsons. So when you already have CeeDee Lamb, it makes no sense to me. And if I'm just a guy or anyone that's in Dallas watching Luka Doncic, and now we're going on a tangent here, watching Luka Doncic and Micah Parsons get traded in the same, couple of months, it's a lot. I feel for you. I'm here to offer you some support, but I'm not really going to cope with the Cowboys fans because I'm a Giants fan. But good for Micah. You got paid 4 years. What was it? $188 million.
Not 88, right? 188?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and then Kenny Clark to the Cowboys, two first-round picks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 first-round picks. Yep, right.
Yep. Hey, the trade of all time for sure.
I think like he was just clearly not happy with Jerry Jones with the whole organization, and I think this just continues to look bad for the Cowboys. Just you have this player that you drafted. He obviously loves playing for you. He obviously wanted to stay there. You just needed to pay him the money. Like, he's obviously as talented as those non-quarterbacks that are making a ton of money, like Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, like all those guys. Like, he is as talented as them, if not more, and he deserved to be paid as such. And Jerry Jones just didn't want to open up the checkbook. He was, at least from Micah's point of view, he was like, whatever talks they did have, like, he just wasn't happy with how it was being handled, how his agent wasn't present, stuff like that. I just think once the relationship was severed, again, was done. But you're looking at a guy who's one of only 3 players in the last 4 or 5 seasons to have 12 or more sacks. Like, this, like, the Green Bay Packers are just getting an absolute, like, dude, like, he's just so good at football. This is completely, like, now you're looking at, like, the Packers maybe being a favorite to win the NFC North, like, everything like that. Like, this is just a completely, like, what's the word? Game-changing trade for the Packers, I guess, is the word. I don't know. I can't really think of a better word.
I feel for AJ Piazza, known Bears fan. Sure, former collegiate social editor Joe Tuman's very happy right now.
Yeah, got to feel for Caleb Williams. It might not be a fun year with Micah Parsons. But, I mean, I think my biggest thing about the trade was that Micah Parsons is not a New England Patriot. What are we talking about?
That would have been a good fit.
Like, Executive Vice President of Player Personnel, Elliot Wolf, literally said that if there is a player good enough, we're going to try to go and get him. We're going to be aggressive, things like that. Like, that's not exact quotes, but he was basically saying, we want to go get him. Not only did he not trade Kyle Duggar, who has been struggling lately, but he did not get Micah Parsons. I think if I was the Patriots, I would have paid him that immediately, and I would have sent 5 first-round picks. I don't care. I don't care. I think the Patriots are right on the cusp. I think they win 10 games this year. I think they're right on the cusp. So that's my biggest complaint. I think the trade overall. I mean, you look on the Cowboys side, you're guaranteed to get at least 1 or 2. Well, at least 2 first-round picks. I would have implored for 3 or 4. You look at Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark obviously is a 3-time Pro Bowler, but he hasn't been a Pro Bowler in 2 seasons. He only had 1 sack last season, so obviously his production is dropping. I am not a Packers connoisseur like a Joe Tuman or like an Audrey Snyder, so that is not really.
Allen.
Yeah, exactly.
Rich
really?
Garcella.
Oh, okay, got you. Anyways, I'm not a Packers phenom or whatever you want to call it, the cheesehead, whatever, all of that. So I don't really know what went on with Kenny Clark last season. He is a very talented defensive tackle. As a whole, you look at his career again, I think he topped out at 7.5 sacks in that 2023 season. So, I mean, I think that is, I guess, decent return for Dallas, but I would have tried for 3 or 4. Like, you can go back to, like, the Khalil Mack trade.
Why would we bring that up? You know what? Some days I just
It's actually pretty comparable.
It is pretty comparable.
It is pretty comparable.
Yeah. But I think if you look at the stage of Micah Parsons' career in which he got traded, it was much earlier than Khalil.
Yeah.
Like, Khalil wasn't on the way out, but he was probably 1 contract from being on the way out. And not that he's, like, done his career. Like, he's still fine. But he's not the Khalil Mack that was, like, you know, grabbing guys and just, like, chucking them. Like, he's he's not that Khalil Mack. So, I mean, it was a little bit different. But, I mean, at the end of the day, America wins when the Cowboys lose. The Cowboys lost Micah Parsons. That is probably the biggest news today and the biggest news of my month. It made my day. He is not in the AFC East. Again, he is no longer in the NFC East as well. So, Jaden Daniels and Joel Haas, please rejoice. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Micah Parsons trade is an absolute blockbuster, but it had to happen. Jerry Jones continues to lose guys, and the former Penn Stater is headed to Green Bay. Well, that's all we have for today. As I said in the last episode, please subscribe to our newsletter. You can go to psucollegian.com, click newsletters. You'll click Penn State football newsletter, and you'll be able to see our content, some of our best content from the week on a bi-weekly basis. We'll also have a chance for you to have a little bit of conversation with us, submit some questions, so make sure to submit those as well. But other than that, as I said, visit psucollegian.com and follow us on socials at Daily Collegian. We will see you next time.